My name is Angelina. If someone had told me a few months ago, Tony would never cheat on you, I would have believed it with all my heart. Because while I loved Tony, he was more than just a marriage to me. He was my peace in life. But it turns out that peace was just a storm in the silence. It all started with a dress. One evening, Tony had taken a shower after work. I was packing up the laundry basket. At the bottom of the closet, I noticed a new outfit that wasn't mine. It was a red, thin-strap dress, elegant. The fabric was expensive, and it still had the tags on. It was a size smaller than I was. At first, I thought, maybe he bought me a gift. But then I asked myself, why would he buy a gift, and then secretly put it in the closet with my clothes? I didn't say anything that night, but a feeling of unease began to grow inside me, and that restlessness would reveal the biggest truth of my life in a few weeks. Tony had been coming home late lately. He'd say things like, "The meetings have dragged on, the project is intense, there are new clients." I wanted to believe his tired face, his disheveled jacket, and sometimes the scent of his perfume. But that perfume, it wasn't my scent. One night he came home at 11:30 p.m. He was tired, but he looked so happy. His eyes sparkled when he smiled, as if he were hiding something when he spoke to me. I put the food on the table. He ate some of what I made, then looked at his phone, and a faint smile appeared on his face. My heart clenched at that moment. I was a little suspicious. Women can sometimes sense things without needing any proof. I felt it too. Something had changed. That night, as he lay in bed, his back was to me. He used to hold me in his arms and kiss me, but now he was silent. And that silence suffocated me in my sleep. In the days that followed, my suspicions grew. A sense of unease welled up inside me. There was a light trace of powder on his shirt collar. I became increasingly suspicious. I found a women's purse in his car. He'd moved the flowers around the house even though he wouldn't touch them. One evening, while Tony was showering, I checked his phone. Yes, that's what I did. Because I was living with my doubts, not my heart. But he was so careful. There were no messages. It was as if he was deleting all the messages. Yet, he still had a few call history calls to someone named Lauren. 6 or 7-second calls? I thought. Probably someone from work. But these calls always happened in the evening. Women can sometimes tell the truth even from a momentary mistake. As I looked at Tony, I felt like his eyes weren't mine anymore. He was right next to me, but I felt like he was far away. He was talking, but it was nonsense. He was laughing, but that smile wasn't mine. One Sunday morning, I made breakfast. I made him his favorite pancakes, but he didn't even eat a bite. I was so upset. So I asked Tony, "Tony, are you okay?" I said. "Yeah, I'm just tired," he said. But his voice was different. It was like there was another man inside. I was tired of pretending. That night, I took that red dress out of the closet and placed it on the table. When Tony came out of the bathroom, he saw it. He paused for a moment. Then, with a fake smile, he said, "It's beautiful. When did you buy it?" I remained silent. I looked at him for a long time. There was a moment of surprise on his face, then suspicion. But he quickly recovered. "Isn't this your dress?" he asked. "No, it's not," I said. "Then maybe one of your friends forgot it." I smiled inwardly. Yeah, of course. My friend must have put the dress in my closet. But still, I didn't say anything that night. Because sometimes silence is stronger than a confession. A few days later, I looked at the odometer on Tony's car. He'd gone to work that day, but he'd gone too far. He'd gone somewhere. That evening, he said, "I waited too long in traffic. I decided to follow him the next day." Yes, maybe this was crazy. But I was already losing my mind with doubt. He said he'd gone to work in the morning. I left home a few minutes later. I followed him from afar. But he hadn't gone to work, but to a cafe on the other side of town. He parked the car in front of the cafe. He sat down and waited for someone. A while later, the woman arrived. She was red-haired, elegantly dressed, about 30. And yes, she was wearing that red dress. My heart felt like it was about to jump out of my chest. I had my phone in my hand, but I didn't want to call or take pictures. I just watched. Their laughter, their holding hands, that light in Tony's eyes, that sparkle I'd once seen when he looked at me. Then they both left together. The woman got into her car and Tony followed. At that moment, something inside me broke. I wanted to cry, but I couldn't. It was as if all my tears were stuck in my throat. That evening when he came home, I said nothing. I smiled and set the table. He was acting the same as always. But now I was following his every word, his every move. "How was your day, Tony?" I asked. "Good. A little stressed, but it passed." He said it without looking me in the eye. It was as if he were talking to his shadow, not to me. After we finished dinner, I quietly washed the dishes. Then I followed him into the living room. I had that red dress in my hands. I walked towards him. "Tony," I said quietly. "Yes, dear?" "I know who you wore that dress with." His face suddenly went pale. His eyes widened and he gasped. For a moment, he couldn't say anything. Then, his lips trembling, he said, "Angelina, let me explain." But there was no need to explain anymore. Everything had already been explained. That silence, that look, that hesitation. All of it was a confession. My suspicions were unfortunately true, and my husband had been cheating on me with another woman. "How long?" I asked. "About 3 months." "Is her name Lauren?" "Yes." Suddenly, I found myself laughing nervously, but it was a laugh born of pain. "So, 3 months," I said. "I didn't mean to fool you, I just didn't want you to know," he said. "Getting lost." "People don't get lost in marriage, Tony. People just find someone else and call it getting lost." That night, we slept in different rooms. When he woke up in the morning, my husband had packed his suitcase. He turned to me and closed the door without saying a word. He didn't seem particularly remorseful for what he'd done. I stared at that red dress for a long time that day. I touched the fabric with my fingertips. I couldn't understand how something so beautiful, once a symbol of love, could now represent betrayal. We divorced 2 weeks later. My lawyer had settled everything because I wanted nothing. Not the house, not the car, not the money. I just wanted my silence back. But even silence can be too loud sometimes. I still hear that laughter at night, and I dream of that red dress. A dress? Just a piece of fabric, but it left a lasting scar on me. 2 years passed. I live in another city now. I work in a small bookstore. My life was simple and very peaceful. One day, a man walked through the door. My heart stopped for a moment. It was Tony. He was tired, old, his face sunken. "Angelina," he said. "Yes?" "I wanted to see you." "Why?" "Because I still love you." I just smiled. "Tony, sometimes, even when you love someone, one mistake can change everything." "I know." Then he turned and walked away. After he closed the door, a peace I couldn't quite explain settled within me. There was no more pain. There was only the silent scream of the past, and in that moment I realized I had already forgiven him. But I had never forgotten him. That red dress is still in my closet now. I wanted to throw it away, but I couldn't. Because sometimes a wound heals not by forgetting, but by remembering. Every time I look at it, it reminds me of so many things. Betrayal doesn't happen overnight. It starts with small events, with a message, a silence, a smile. And one day, you realize the person you loved is now smiling at someone else. My story began with a dress and ended with silence. But somewhere inside me, a question still echoes. Did Tony truly love me, or was he just used to it? I don't know. But I don't want to know anymore, because sometimes betrayal can be unforgivable, and I found myself in that silence. So, friends, we've reached the end of our video. If you've watched this far, subscribe.